Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Chop Won't Stop podcast, a Braves podcast for Braves fans. So once again, it's your boy Jimbo here with Nick Brooks. He is not in Dothan, Alabama. He is actually in Atlanta, Georgia, in his girlfriend's closet. So that just shows his dedication to the show, where he is sitting in a closet instead of making her sit in the closet in her own apartment. So good job, Nicholas. Very proud of you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Would have been better had we gotten a few more wins in Atlanta to end the week, but we're making it.
Speaking of that, there's a reason why you're in Atlanta. You were there for Friday night for Freddie's return, and then you were also there technically last night. We're dropping this on Tuesday, recording Monday night, so you were there on Sunday night whenever Kenley Jansen decided to wink over to his old team and blow the game. So how was that whole experience? Because as a fan, like myself, who was watching it on TV, obviously it was very emotional. You could almost tell that Freddie wants to nut punch his agent right in the tatas of the nut sack. So how was that, just being a fan there?
Yeah, you could definitely tell. Obviously, I didn't see like pregame or postgame live. I saw it on Twitter and stuff like that, and you can just tell that he wants to be back in a Braves uniform so badly. Even Clayton Kershaw interviewed with the AJC over the weekend and said like he's just hoping the Dodgers aren't playing second fiddle with Freddie Freeman. And you can obviously tell that's where it is. I mean, he wants to be a Brave. Went over and signed a ton of autographs on the home side. And then I was over on the visiting side because I was waiting for him to come out of the clubhouse Friday. And he came out of the clubhouse, immediately went to the field and started throwing a little bit. I saw Chip Carey, Nick Green, and Jeff Francoeur all go over to him, give him hugs. And I guess they went up and into the booth after that. And then Freddie took BP, and then in between taking BP, he signed autographs, a lot of autographs. Then took some ground balls at first base. He looked a little off at first base when he got out on the field. I imagine there were probably a few things that had his attention aside from that. And then he came over to the visiting side, signed autographs. I was probably about 5 feet from him. Still didn't get anything signed. But it was a special night. And then I went, Saturday or Sunday. I went Sunday, and it was nice to see the fans continue to give him cheers. I mean, I think all 3 nights, his first at bat, he got a standing ovation from the crowd. And then from, I think, Friday night to Sunday night, the cheers went to boos. Sunday night for sure, I heard a lot of boos, especially when he hit that double in the 10th inning to take the lead. And then, really the special thing was obviously his ring ceremony, him getting his ring. I was sitting in left field when I was watching him on the Jumbotron because it's kind of hard to hear, and he turns to the dugout and points the ring to the dugout. And that was really, I think, a moment where he's like, man, I really wish I was in this dugout yet again. I mean, it was just, I think that he sat there and was just contemplating like, man, I really miss this place. But speaking of rings, I sent you a package in the mail. What was it?
Yeah, so I got my ring. Thanks, Nick, for going to one of the giveaways. So anybody who may not have followed us on Twitter, once we were really starting to get active again, Kylie, my wife, and I, we went to the 3rd game of the home opening series against the Reds. That was the ring ceremony, of course. And so the pregame entertainer, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was stopping people, asking 2 questions. 1, have you ever seen a World Series ring? And 2, what would you do for your very own World Series ring? Because that's whenever they started promoting the giveaway for the games. So he said, don't tell me your answer. He wanted to be genuinely shocked and surprised, for camera, or for the camera, for the live reaction of the crowd, etc. He's a PR guy. We, Nick and I are both PR guys too. So we went to school for journalism communications. We get it. So he asked the girls, have you ever seen a ring? They showed off their wedding rings. It's the only ones they need. Great answer. I immediately look at Kylie. I said, do not get mad at me for this next answer. Didn't tell her what it was. Didn't tell the guy, nothing. So this man said, what would you do for a World Series ring? And I said, oh, he looked right at me. And I said, I would leave my wife. Well, now that I have a World Series ring, I have some good news and bad news. Good news, I'm still wearing my wedding band. I'm still staying married for the long run. Now, if the Braves win another World Series ring, I may say it again just for the clout. Bad news is Nick sent me a ring that's been going for like $80 off of Facebook. So he is out $80, but it's just been a good time. So Nicholas, I appreciate you sending that to me. And we'll do a little we'll do a little video montage of that. And then obviously what we just did, it would be kind of funny. And hopefully we can send it to our boy Justin with the AGC, who tweeted how hilarious it was. I did that because I kid you not, everybody in the crowd erupted, and every guy around next to me was high fiving, and every girl was telling Kylie to dump my $$ and take my money and run. But now that I have this and a wife, I'm living a high life. So Nick, once again, thank you for sending that. He actually had to go to a second game to get it because him and his girlfriend weren't giving me theirs from the first game. So that just shows he's crappy for not doing the first game, but also a bro for doing the second game. So that's 2A street right there. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, Nick, like you can just tell in the videos, Freddie was upset. And then I was watching the game last night whenever I got back in from my, I want to be a big leaguer, adult league baseball team where I went 2 for 4 with 3 ribbies, just like a pro. But you could just tell, and I think my dad had said something too in kind of a Facebook group that we're in with a handful of his friends that Nick is in too, that in the 9th inning, whenever they showed Freddie, he was kind of looking around, taking it all back in, because unless they meet up in the playoffs, Freddie won't be back at Truist for the rest of the year. And you can just tell, like, he's tearing up, constantly crying. And, I think he realizes that he effed up by allowing his agent to take over so much. So, I mean, kind of like what you were saying, you didn't get to see any of the pre or post game stuff. And I mean, that's all it was. It was nothing but tears. He walked into the press room, had to walk out because he couldn't handle it. And, sometimes you just gotta see it from that angle to realize, what you really did to a fan base and, almost to yourself. You owe it to yourself just as much as you do to the fans. But enough about the Freddie talk. He's over. Matty-O is hitting doubles like no other. So what we're going to head do is we're going to switch it over to our normal programming. So we'll start with good, bad, and ugly. Nick will talk about player of the week. I'll chime in, upcoming matchups, hot takes, and we out of this. So I want to start first with good, bad, and ugly. So my good, I'm going to go with just Michael Harris and Orlando Arcia. Just like the way those guys have stepped up. Michael Harris has been on a tear. I've seen nothing but stats. Like, he's already in just 15 to 20 games, already top 5 in like all these different categories in terms of defensive fielding, which is absolutely nuts. And he's on like record pace if he keeps it up. And Orlando Arcia, like losing Ozzy last week or 2 weeks ago, like a week or 2 weeks ago, Arcia is really kind of taking that sting out of, like, I remember when Ronnie went down, and obviously, we had that period whenever the trades were going where it was just like, we got Almonte out there, like this isn't pretty, but like Arcia is stepping up. He had the one walk off this previous week. And so I would say that's definitely the good. It's just the guys who going in a training camp you didn't expect to be there, step up have. The bullpen's been really iffy lately. Saw it with Jansen on Sunday night. And so that's kind of the bad for me. I'm Matzek's back in Augusta. Jay Jackson's with the rookie league, I think, at FCL. And then you still got Kirby Yates chilling there on the side. Colin McHugh hasn't been sharp. But, I feel a bit better. I honestly think Dylan Lee is going to step in the majors. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Darren O'Day got DFA'd. And, I don't know what's going to happen with Colin McHugh, but he hasn't been sharp either. Hate to see Jackson Stevens leave because he is the ultimate dad with a beer gut, walking in with a polo every game. And then my ugly, I think just some of the bats you expect. Azuna's kind of gone off, but Doobie is still kind of iffy. And so I would like to see kind of Doobie step up. So him hitting 207, he should be honestly 240, 250. So to me, still seeing him flirt with that Mendoza line's pretty ugly in my opinion. But Nicholas, what's your GBU?
Yeah, I'll add on to your Michael Harris a second. He's been really good. I tweeted out yesterday when he made that catch in the ninth inning to save the game, or however you want to word it, keep the game going. I said that he's the greatest Michael to ever wear or don the number 23. Obviously a joke, but who knows, by the end of the career, he might make a name for himself wearing that jersey. I know that in the ninth, maybe 10th or 11th inning, he had two spectacular catches that had I think 40% probability catch rate. So it's fun to see stuff like that in the outfield, game saving catches, stuff like that. It's just fun to see. But as far as my good, bad, and ugly, obviously good. 3 of 4 from the Giants, including taking that game from them with Carlos Rondon pitching, pretty much their best pitcher. And that was a pivotal series for us. I mean, that's the best team I think we've played all June up until this Dodgers series. So for us to take 3 of 4 from them was huge. And then the bad is losing 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. Obviously, I wasn't expecting much from Friday night's game. I mean, Julio Urias has been pitching lights out. It was really a tough series, especially with Tony Gonsolin pitching. I mean, he's an early candidate for NL Cy Young. So am I mad that we lost 2 out of 3? Yes, but I mean, it's not the worst case scenario. They had their best arms going. We had Ian, Fried, and then Strider pitched lights out on Sunday. I mean, 6 innings, no runs. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that from a guy who hasn't been stretched out past 2 or 3 innings leading into this season. So my bad is losing 2 of 3 from the Dodgers simply because we had them 2-0 in the ninth inning and we blew it with Trace Thompson up at the plate, who hadn't hit the ball all series. So it was frustrating to see that, and the fact that Matt Olson tipped it off his glove made it even more frustrating. And then the ugly is obviously bullpen game 2 of the Giants. I think Strider came out giving up 6 runs, and then we end up giving 6 more runs up. I mean, I realized the ball was probably flying out of the ballpark, but if you're regarded as one of the best bullpens in the game, you've got to act like it. There's got to be somebody in that pen who can stop the bleeding, and it didn't seem like anybody in the bullpen that game was stopping the bleeding at all. And then game 2 and 3 of the Dodgers, we had a 3-0 lead, I think, on Saturday, and the Dodgers ended up coming back to tie the game. Thankfully, Marcell Ozuna hit that home run to make it 5-3. And then obviously we had the 2-0 lead going all the way up into the ninth. Kenley gives up 2 runs. We go into the top of the 10th. Darren O'Day gives up a run. We go into maybe it was the 11th. He gave up the runs, but just, I mean, we didn't have a shutdown inning between 9, 10, and 11. Like, we did not hold them to a 0. And that's something we've got to do. Especially if we want to be considered an elite bullpen. I mean, if there's a runner on second, somebody's got to be able to strand him. But as far as that, I mean, that's just my GBU of the week. I don't know what other people think of that, but I mean, for us to be considered as an elite bullpen, we've got to be able to act like an elite bullpen in big games.
Especially in June. I mean, up until that series, they had been pretty dominant for the most part. Will Smith still,
Will Smith.
Yeah, he gets pretty sketchy there. I wish he would think of it as the postseason all the time, because just like prime Luke Jackson back in the day, I get a little nervous whenever Will Smith comes out, especially for his 13 mil he's making. He should be come in, and every 5th appearance he might give up a run. But yeah, it's kind of getting a little sketchy for me. But I mean, Nick, kind of, in your opinion, from these 2 series, who kind of stood out to you the most in terms of player of the week?
Yeah, player of the week, obviously, Dansby has been huge all June, even May. He was big all May too. He honestly is on track to be player of the month, in my opinion. 13 for 29 this week. 9 runs scored, 6 RBIs, and then had 4 homers. I know he had 2 homers against the Giants on Thursday, led off the game with a home run, and then I think hit one in the 3rd or 4th inning. So just a big weekend for him, big week for him, I should say. And so that was kind of my player of the week. He really was able to keep the line moving for the top of the order. I know he's been batting second, but he stepped right into where Ronald does when he leads off the game. So big props to Dansby. He's been hitting in any part of the lineup that Snip puts him in and hasn't stopped.
Yeah, no, he has. I remember when everybody was sweating about Dansby, but we've seen it. Dansby will hit lows, he'll hit highs, he'll go back to lows. So I'd like to see him being a consistent. I don't think it's too much ask being, just an average Joe, but I would love to see a consistent 280 Dansby. This 380, 390 we're seeing this month is awesome, but I would love for him just to be consistently 280. And then, I'd be okay with an 18 mil plus contract with his glove if he's hitting consistent 280, in my opinion, with 20 to anywhere from 20 to 28 home runs. But I would say for my player of the week, it's more the bounce back, considering, a lot of our rookies with, after they got punched in the mouth, they can't really bounce back. But I'm going to go Spencer Strider. Literally, he got his fanny whooped against the Giants. Same homestand. He comes back in prime time on ESPN against the Dodgers with a lot of storylines. My dad did a good job pointing this out. Friday is Valley, all about Freddie returning. Of course, it's our hometown network. Saturday, Fox, primetime. All they want to do is talk about Freddie's return. Sunday, ESPN, new network, everything. All they did was talk about Freddie's return. So, Strider was literally going against all these headlines. And after the kind of game he had, the bounce back, to me, that deserves player of the week. I mean, we've seen guys like Tucker and Moeller and Tukey and Lascar, you name it. They have one bad game, it affects them, they get sent down. But Strider steps up, fastball back to a crisp 98 to 100, sliders there. So to me, that's more deserving in my mind of player of the week, just being able to bounce back like that after having arguably probably his worst outing all year, where he went from a 2.4 ERA up to a 3.8. Now he's back to a 3.0. So I think if he keeps it going, he's going to be pretty solid. But I think that's just huge to keep his morale and keep his momentum going.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say that Strider seems like that kind of person who doesn't crumble under the hype. Like, I feel like he's like another Max Fried, where he's just, I don't care who I'm playing. I don't care how big the situation is. I'm going to go in and do my job. That's just the vibe. I think it's the mustache. I really do. But that's the kind of vibe I get from him. But, it's a new week. And we've got some pretty favorable matchups, I'd say, going into it. A 3-game series against the Phillies and a 3-game series against the Reds. The Phillies might get into a slump because they've gotten some very bad news with Bryce Harper needing surgery on his thumb. So he's projected to miss upwards of 2 months right now. Probably right around 2 months is where he'll be. So I would expect them to maybe move him to the 60-day IL, retroactive to when he broke his thumb. But so you hate to see a player injured, but it's nice to be able to go into Philadelphia and not see Bryce Harper in a lineup for a 3-game series. You got Morton going against Wheeler. Morton's pitched lights out his past couple outings. He's got a 4.3 win-loss record, 4.84 ERA. I think he's lowered it by a whole run over the past 2 or 3 outings he's had against Zach Wheeler, who's always pretty impressive. Honestly, he doesn't have the record to show it. He's 6-4 with a 2.77 ERA. So hopefully Morton can continue his previous outings. And obviously you've got Kyle Wright, 8-4 with a 3.18 ERA. That kind of got rocked a little bit against the Giants on Thursday. Went over 3, I think, for maybe the first time all season, going against Suarez, the Phillies pitcher, who's 6-4, 4.23 ERA. A lot of 6-4 players pitching this week. Then you got Ian Anderson on Thursday going up against Aaron Nola, also 6-4, and Ian's got a 4.6 ERA, and then Aaron Nola's 4-5 with a 2.98 ERA. And then heading into this Red series, you got Max Fried and Mike Minor, former Brave. Mike Minor's been roughed up. He's got a 7.71 ERA, and then obviously Max has been lights out with a 2.77 ERA. I expect it to be lower. He's probably looking for some redemption against the Reds after his opening day start. And then Spencer Strider and Tommy Mall pitching on Saturday, and then Morton going again against Luis Castillo on Sunday. That to me might be a pretty good matchup. Luis Castillo's arguably one of the best pitchers that is on the trade block right now. So it'll be a good couple good matchups, and I expect a really good outcome for the Braves again this week to keep building off of.
Yeah, I definitely think this is once again another week where we come out ahead. In terms of, it stinks that we lost 2 games to the Dodgers and we didn't win that series. But in silver lining, going 4-3 against teams like that, that's, technically could be best case scenario. For this, I kind of still look for the same thing. If you can keep quiet of Schwarber, who's hitting 210, but it's kind of like a Dan Douglas situation. Schwarber's striking out, or he's sitting at 450 every time. And then Castellanos, to me, JT Realmuto hasn't done much this year. Of course, it'd be like JT to go off against the Braves. Why not? But I think if you keep those guys quiet, we should be setting up pretty good. And against the Reds, I mean, the Reds aren't great. Kind of same thing. If you can keep Jonathan India, chill, and just some of those other guys, it wouldn't surprise me if they got back on a winning streak, going 6-0. I'm gonna hope for a 5-1, 2 out of 3 against the Reds, and then sweep with the Reds. They got 20 straight games going into the All-Star break. And the only real, you got the Cardinals and the Mets within that, and then it's the Nats back-to-back times. So to me, I think, this is where you got to start getting on your high horse, building some ground, and hope that you catch heat to, if you're within, I know this is a little far ahead for future episodes, but if you're within 3 games of the Mets, you could be tied with them, if not take the lead going into the All-Star break. And that is a huge momentum change, especially with, you never know with Anthopoulos. He could wake up at 4 a.m. and make a trade, and we wake up to it. So I definitely think this has to be a strong week like what we talked about going into June whenever we went on that run. But speaking of those hot takes, Nicholas, I would say I'm going to ride on the hot take horse that I think they're going to depot Zuna's salary however they can. But for me, I really think that they're going to try to do something with Colin McHugh if he doesn't do anything. I would imagine they'd probably have to DFA him. I don't think he has any options anymore. So he just hasn't been good. And if Dylan Lee keeps hitting stride, I think Jackson Stevens would be, number 2 to go. But if Kirby Yates comes back, there's a lot of people up there. And Dylan Lee, I want to say that because Jesse Chavez got out of that inning on Sunday without giving up any runs, right?
It was close to it.
And Dylan Lee was at a 0.6 then, and he got 2 outs with no runs. So he's probably flirting with a 0.5, and that is not shabby whatsoever. So, my hot takes, I think Colin McHugh either gets traded away or gets DFA'd. That's my hot take for this week for the rest of the year.
Kind of scratching my head on that. Colin McHugh has a 3.38 ERA this season, and in his last 7 games, he's got a 1.59 ERA.
That's why it's hot.
My hot take is going to be that we catch up to the Mets and are either tied or in first place in the NL East by the All-Star break. I think it's very doable, especially with 3 games against the Mets. Key is just when they win, we have to win, and when they lose, we got to win. Obviously, but there was no reason why we shouldn't be 4 games back of the Mets right now after Sunday because we should have won that game and they obviously lost. So it's tough, but we can make up some ground easily going 5-1 this week, and make up another game to pull within 4 games. Hopefully 3 to make it even nicer. And then I feel wholeheartedly that we'll take 2 out of 3 from them. I still don't feel great about this. Like, people are like, oh, this Mets team's different. And I'm just like, I just don't feel that way. Like there's something about a team where you're like, okay, this might be that team's year. And it might be that I haven't watched them close enough, but like when we split with them back in April, May, whenever it was, I'm like, this is not a team that should have the second or third most wins in baseball. Like, I just feel like they've gotten lucky, and luck will run out. So that's my hot take.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Scherzer comes back for the Braves series, because I know he's in rehab assignment right now. So I wonder if he'll be back by then. But then again, they handled him with the Nationals, they handled him with the Dodgers. He's just, the Braves see him enough. It's not like it's the Oakland A's see him for the first time and they crap down both legs. So I'm not too worried about it whatsoever. But I think kind of, Nick, this be able to kick us off for this episode. Pretty pumped to see what we're going to do against the Phillies and Reds. Hopefully we're coming back next week. I would assume we're probably going to take the 4th off and do again on next Tuesday, just because we're going to be spending time with families. I'll be back home in Indiana and I'm getting in late Sunday. And then obviously Nick will be doing something with his family or his lady, or you never know. So we'll probably be coming back next Tuesday, working on getting a big guest for July for the All-Star break. Would be fantastic. Somebody that knows Braves like the back of his hand. So fingers crossed for that. But once again, we appreciate you guys hopping on and listening. Be sure to be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe, like, share on all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, we're there too. And we look forward to seeing you back here. So once again, thank you all for hopping on and chop on.